Hi everyone, my name is Maya Fortune. I'm here with Tribeca New Music, and I'm so excited to be talking with bass-baritone Timothy Jones, who will be performing on Thursday, November 14th at the Domena Center for Classical Music at 7 p.m. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you, Maya. I'm glad I could be here today.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, how you became a musician, and sort of your journey?
Okay. Well, when I was a child, I was exposed to a lot of different kinds of music. I went to a preschool that my family, we were fortunate enough that I got a scholarship to go to a preschool. And they exposed me to a lot of things, and that included classical music. My family was really into gospel music at our family church and blues music, my father's favorite thing to listen to. So when I came home with this interest in classical music, it was new for my family, and I wanted to study piano. So they set me up with piano lessons, another classical teacher, and then all through school, I played other instruments as well, mostly string family. I played cello, then moved to viola, and ultimately violin. So I love those instruments and spent a lot of time with them in my youth. Um, as a pianist, I played for my high school choir, my middle school choir also, but my high school choir, while I was playing for the high school choir, we discovered that my voice was a little bit unusual and that that maybe pursuing a career in something like opera could be helpful for me. So to make a long story short, I did, and I've been very successful in opera, concerts with orchestras, chamber music, and recitals, one of my favorite things to do.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And I also see that you're a professor now. So it must have been really interesting to take all that performance experience and now teach it to today's musicians or
That's right. That's exactly what I do. I show them what I did and what other people do that I've met along the way, and just try to help them with their singing and their careers.
since you started out so much in a physical instrument, a separate physical instrument to going into learning about how to manipulate and develop your own voice that's coming from your own body. How was that process for you?
Sure, I'd say that's a great question. One of the best things for me was learning to breathe and use breath to make sound and create the art that I wanted to create, what was residing in my soul, to find a way to get it out using my own body, my own instrument, and mostly by using breath. I think that's the biggest difference for me. Even though I played oboe and saxophone as well, played a lot of different instruments, to get away from making the music through another instrument, but actually using my instrument to create the sound and create the pictures and images that I loved. That was a big step for me. And I think that's what changed more than anything, to recognize my body as the instrument and share whatever I feel or understand about a piece or a group of pieces, to share that with an audience just using what I have as my own.
Can you tell me how you transitioned from sort of gospel and classical to pursuing more contemporary fields in your art?
I think a lot of that came from the amount of time that I spent with the piano and with other instruments. My theory classes were solid, and I learned complicated techniques for understanding and analyzing music. So, usually, when I sing pieces that may sound a little bit complicated, I have an understanding of them and can make it seem like they're actually easy. And I'm pretty good about choosing pieces whereby if there are dissonances, if there are unusual sounds or unusual rhythms, it's not just some arbitrary thing to challenge the audience or challenge the artist, but that those things are a part of what was inspired by the poem. So that even though something may sound jagged, I can present it in a way that seems like it's very easy and essential, as if there were no other alternative for those words to be set in that way.
For Thursday, I see Six Contrafacts by Arthur was commissioned and written for you. How was the process with the composer and yourself in creating sort of that space where everything seems easy? How did you
Mm,
guys work together and collaborate to create that?
Great. Most of that work had to do with simply when you deal with someone like Arthur Gottschalk. Arthur is a kind of genius. So I shared with him what I'd like to do. He knows my voice. He knows what I can do well on stage, what I cannot do well. So I primarily give an artist like that license to choose whatever they want, as long as I can embrace it and present it, because I don't sing songs as myself, right? I come up with a character who could say those words to that music and exist. So it doesn't matter if it's something that I personally believe in. It has to do with creating the art that Arthur actually created. So that process for me is very easy. Since the pieces, I jump in with my research of the texts. And in this case, it's a great poet, American mainstay from the New Yorker magazine, Dorothy Parker. And he chose six incredible poems, delightful and charming in many different ways. And he made those special pieces that I can embrace and present to the audience.
Wonderful. Are there any new techniques that you have delved into with this piece, or a technique that you like using often with new contemporary music?
In this case, no, most of the singing is what one would call legit traditional singing, although they are contrafacts. So it has to do with some borrowing from other pieces. And in that, you may hear a style of some other singer or some other composer, because I think technically contrafacts actually just borrow the harmony from another piece, and then a new rhythms or new melodies are created, but definitely new words to these pieces that you may I'm singing along and you're, hey, that sounds like Hoagie Carmichael. That sounds like something I've heard before, but it won't be a direct quote of that piece. There may be hints in the direction, but usually the harmony is similar. It may be faster or slower, different arrangement of how the pieces combined or put together. And so the vocal techniques have to do with me switching a little bit, maybe occasionally singing like an opera singer or singing like a lounge singer or singing like a microphoned jazz artist, or a little Frank Sinatra here and there. You may find things like that in the pieces where I'm actually imitating and borrowing techniques from other singers, but the singing itself, there are no extended techniques or any of that kind of stuff. It's legitimate, beautiful singing and a little bit of belting.
Oh, I'm very excited to hear it in person. So you're working with a pianist too, and I know singers often perform and practice and collaborate with pianists. How has it been working for this specific piece with Scott, the pianist that you'll be performing with on Thursday?
The pianist for this piece is, as you said, Scott Cuellar. And Scott currently lives in New York over in Syracuse, and he's on the faculty there. And we've been friends for many years. We've performed together several times and are looking forward to more and more. We're going to record some pieces together. We've commissioned pieces together. And so this world premiere by Arthur Gottschalk is another opportunity for us to work together, get to know each other better musically, and dwell into this. I live in Houston, and he was here for a few days so we could rehearse and put some things together in person instead of doing all the work virtually. We wanted to have some time in the same room, um, getting to the nuts and bolts of the pieces. So that's been a great experience. We are the three of us, Arthur Gottschalk, Scott Cuellar, and myself, we're all friends and enjoy each other's company. So it gave us a chance to renew our friendships as well.
I love that it's not just about the music, it's about the community. One of the other pieces that you'll be performing on is William Bolcom's cabaret songs, and that's something that Tribeca New Music has had a big history with. We performed the full set of cabaret songs back in the day. How are you going to take these songs and make them yours?
Well, we selected four of those cabaret songs that are really well known, and each one has a little twist. We like to have a little surprise here and there. So, fortunately, I was a student at the University of Michigan, where William Bolcom was a professor with Joan Morris, and there are pieces that composers and poets wrote for me when I was a student. They were in a course called Words and Music, where they showed them many different ways to combine words and music to create art. And I visited that class on a few occasions and learned from Bill Bolcom. So I've always enjoyed singing his pieces. And this time I chose four pieces that I've never performed myself, but I have taught them to my students. And so I wanted to have a chance to put them on their feet in my body and in my voice and deliver those. So Scott Cuellar and I, we spent some time on those pieces as well. So we chose one called Over the Piano to open the set, and then Murray the Furrier, which is a delightful tune, a beautiful waiting uh, to include something really beautiful and sweet in the group. And we're closing it out with George, my friend George, so that everyone can have a laugh before heading out for a drink, as George would say.
Wow, that's so exciting. So, as a teacher, do you have any advice for the up and coming musicians who are interested in this type of music?
Uh-huh. I think the recommendation is to focus on your own gifts and develop yourself to the highest artist that you can. That has to do with musicianship, of course, but often we're singing texts, right? There's some pieces where I'm singing ooh and ah and other sounds, but I'm delivering a text. So you want to develop the ability to be understood clearly. And that can be in English, French, German, Italian, whatever your languages are. That you want to be clear and understood. And if you've developed your musicianship to a high level so that composers can write complicated rhythms, they can write pitches that may be challenging to find, and without worry that the pieces will be rendered in a true way. So it's the standard things, the ability to sing at many different dynamic levels, to sing throughout your entire range, extending your range if necessary to accomplish some things. And also, another tip is just be true to yourself. When you're artificial, people are not so inclined to work with you or want to invest the amount of time that it takes to create a new piece. If you're yourself and you're just honest and true, I think composers and presenters alike will then look at that person and say, I'd like to entrust them with my organization or with my creation, or I think this is someone that's worthy of a lot of hours to rehearse with or to perform with. So I think that's a big part of it, developing yourself and your artistry to a high level and being true to yourself and presenting yourself in a humble and honest way.
Thank you. And one of the questions that we always ask everyone is, what have you been listening to lately? If you had a playlist, who would be on there right now?
I see. Well, fortunately, it's a great question. Aretha Frank, Aretha Franklin is always around. She's somewhere
Right.
nearby. And one of my favorites is Stevie Wonder. I always like the artistry and creativity in his productions. I've been listening a lot to an opera singer that I worked with many years ago. Didn't work with her a lot, but Christine Goerke.
Mhm.
She's a dramatic soprano who's had a beautiful, lovely career and is going to be in Houston in a few months performing. And I just started listening to some of her pieces again, some recordings that she made of Dvorak, and she's been singing a lot of Wagner and Strauss lately, so I've been listening to some of that too. I love the Wagner. I lived in Germany for a while, so I love listening to those pieces
Oh,
as well.
cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very excited to see you on Thursday, November 14th at 7 p.m. at the Domena Center. Thank you so much, Timothy. I really appreciate talking with you and hearing more about the pieces that are going to be performed.